O'Neill, 2 L's. I serve the SGC under a General Hammond.
We're explorers. You see, we're from another planet.
The unstable vortex of a forming wormhole. Kawoosh.
Indeed.
Hello Internet, welcome back to another episode of the Kawoosh podcast. We're on episode 8 already of the first season of Stargate SG-1 and this one is Brief Candle. So you didn't know what it was? Did it ring any bells when it started?
Yeah, once I saw it, I was like, oh, I've seen this one before, and I remembered like big chunks of it. But it was really nice to see it again, because for some reason my perspective was just completely different.
I also think...
That's so strange to say. For some reason, 20 years ago, I was a different person. Yes, that's what happens.
I also think it may be the least rewatched season. I think we may have only picked like the big ones when we rewatched this.
You keep saying we, but you basically start a rewatch, and then I go like, "Oh, what's this?" And then
you join in.
Yeah, that's what happens.
So we opened the episode on a Greek-inspired temple, and we cut inside to somebody praying to a statue. And I thought it was Zeus at first because it was Greek and he had a lightning bolt.
Yeah.
But it appears to be somebody else. And while he's praying, the Stargate, which is also in the same room in the temple, activates and SG-1 steps out.
Which made me wonder, don't they usually send a malp through?
Yes.
But they didn't this time.
No, it would probably be...
And then they were surprised that there were people there.
Yeah.
Like, did they just... Do they only have this many malps and were they all gone? I don't know. Did somebody not return it?
I think it's just they didn't know how to write it in.
Probably. It also would have just taken a dive down the stairs immediately.
Yeah. Because it wasn't a raised die, so...
Like, boom. Like, I just... In my head, all the malps are in for repairs.
All the time, probably.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. Some of them don't even come back, I think.
Yeah. Can you just imagine being like the person in charge of like getting all the
the
stuff back? Like, where is it this time? We think it's on that planet. Really? How am I even supposed to log this? Like,
why isn't it back? It froze.
Fell down. Okay. Fell down the steps. That's okay. We have a check mark for that these days.
It fell in lava. It got shot to bits.
It got chewed up. Okay, cool.
That's a new one.
Okay, moving on.
Yeah. Jack asks where they are, and Daniel answers he doesn't really know, but he says early Greek, and he doesn't recognize the statue. At that point, they hear some screaming, and hiding behind one of the statues is a woman and a man. She is obviously pregnant and in labor.
Never assume pregnancy. That's, I mean...
Okay, true, but...
I just wanted to say, you said obviously pregnant. No, nobody is ever obviously pregnant.
Like, obviously movie pregnant.
I will, yes, I will allow it.
The man is confused because they came through the gate and they are not Pelops. So the god in the statue is Pelops. Daniel points at the statue like, you mean that guy?
Yes, Daniel, because that's the main focus right now.
Exactly. And then when they notice the woman, well, they do notice her immediately, but Jack kind of looks at Carter like, you're the woman in the group. She's pregnant. And Carter's like, I don't know what to do. Why are you looking at me?
I love how the dad-to-be says, I don't know the birthing mysteries. Like, why did you frame it like that? That's really... weird.
Yeah, she's a scientist, she's not a doctor.
Yeah.
And we cut to credits. And when we come back, Daniel is actually playing midwife. Carter asks how he learned, and he says he took up midwifing on one of the planets.
He didn't really say he took up midwifing.
No.
It's more like it happened, and then I read it as this bunch of midwives like totally took it as a learning opportunity to drag me aside and teach me all the things I did wrong. That's how I understood that.
Yeah, and she wants to know how many babies he delivered. 2, counting this one.
Which is always,
Which is always funny.
Yeah, that's always funny.
A moment later, we hear the cries of a newborn baby, and Daniel announces it's a boy. And the woman appears with the baby and shows off the birthmark because it will bring luck. And they will name the boy Danel.
Yes, with an apostrophe in it.
Because it's an alien.
Which I just loved so much.
Danel.
Like, we will name him after you, but we will add an apostrophe because weirdos like you, what are you doing? You don't have...
And the couple invites them to come to the village and join in celebration. And they cut to the village, which is actually more like one really big villa.
Yeah,
But
you know,
it
we've
does
seen
sell
worse.
it.
We've
Yeah.
seen worse villages.
It's larger than some of the other sets we've seen
True,
so far.
true.
So it does sell it as like a village main square or something.
Yeah.
Daniel remarks that there are no unattractive people there. Carter also notices no one is over 40.
Which is a bit odd because later on we learn what the rules are of the place. So
No, but
how
the
come...
rules are different for Jack.
Yeah, but then even still, they say they have this many. Okay, so yeah, okay, I see what
So
you're
it's
saying.
not entirely clear how they live out their lives there, but what happens to Jack is not what happens to them specifically.
All right, but we're getting ahead of
Yeah,
ourselves.
we're getting ahead
so,
a little bit.
Anyway,
And Jack, of course, being the player that he is, catches the eye of one of the
he
local
literally
women.
did nothing to earn this.
No,
no,
she-
that's
she
not
came
what I
onto
meant.
him, that's
I
true.
didn't. I meant to say he didn't invite this.
No.
He was just sitting there being all stoic, which, you know, to be fair, works for a lot of women and men.
Yeah, and she smiles, he smiles back, you know.
I love how
across
he
the
literally
room.
says, "Have an apple. What could happen?" And then 2 seconds later,
She
she
brings
gives
him-
him
yeah.
a cake and he eats it. And I'm like, Jack, honey, you just. I also love how he's being flirted with, and Dr. Carter is sitting next to him, and she's just having the time of her life. Her smirk
Yeah,
is
she
everything.
finds this very
She's
funny.
like, yeah.
He also has that thing like, I'm not entirely sure if the cake was really that tasty. He's like, oh yeah, very good.
Like, local food, so I must be, you know.
And then he offers to share with the rest of the team, but the woman says, no, this is only for you. Which should put up some red flags, but okay.
Yeah.
And the team starts talking among themselves, and we notice that Jack's POV is getting a little bit wobbly, like he's like high or something, like some drug-induced state, and he starts acting a little high, giggling and joking around, and the locals come and take him to sit alone on a little chair, at which point the woman from before appears and does a special dance for him.
Which I just want to say, as a burlesque dancer, I have notes. Because Ice's wings are such a cool prop, and you can do so many cool moves with it. And you can clearly see that it's not her fault. They
No,
probably just
she's
gave
probably
it to
not a
her
trained
2 seconds
dancer,
before
yeah.
she had to do this and say, just wave it around a little bit because it's going to look cool with the effect that we're going to use.
Yeah.
Which it does.
It does. They put a light
as a-
behind it and stuff.
But as a dancer, I was
Yeah.
just like, oh, it's such a missed opportunity. You can do really cool stuff with... Wait, anyway, moving on.
She's probably not a trained dancer.
No,
She's just,
no.
just an actor. And at the end of the dance, she takes him along inside.
Which I just want to say, this is all very dubious. And I just want to say, if I'm out with drinks with friends and something like that would happen to me, they would not just go like, okay, yeah, have fun. We don't know who this person is.
This is very 90s. Yeah,
It is
nowadays
very
that
90s.
wouldn't fly.
It's very, I'm sure it's going to be fine. Like,
Would this happen? If this would have happened to Carter, I think it would probably be different because this is basically date rape.
it kind,
Kind of is. But
And-
if it's a man, it's not that bad.
It is kind of played for, oh, look, haha.
It's played for laughs, and because the writers know where it's going,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not, they don't mean it badly. It's not an evil plan or something, or it isn't exactly rape. So they
no.
just brush over it like they always did in the 90s.
But I do want to say, once you drug someone, they can no longer consent. Let's be honest about this.
Well,
It's still-
we say drugged, but for all we know, it's something they always have in their food.
True.
Maybe it's a reaction
Yeah,
he
but
has.
right after they, do it, he does say what just happened.
Yeah.
Which made me go,
No, isn't that after he wakes
no.
up? No. Okay.
That's after what I'm assuming is...
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, the man from the couple comes up to the rest of SG-1 while Jack gets taken away, and he tells them that every man and woman gets blessed by the gods with 100 days.
Is that what he says? Doesn't he say everyone?
Well, everyone in their community. I'm paraphrasing a little bit. I didn't write it down
Okay.
verbatim.
Okay.
But he says it would be a waste ashamed to waste those days.
And then Daniel, who should be very good at language, completely misinterprets this as saying, "Oh, this party's gonna last 100 days." Like that's not what he said, Daniel. Like
No, but it's not entirely wrong because their life is pretty much a party.
true,
They're, that's the blessing they have. They have this life without worry. All the food and wine they want or could need.
Which makes me wonder: are there replicators right behind the corner?
Yeah, because
Who is
they don't have a job.
They don't have a job. They just party, which fair.
There's no fields
But
around.
then who is prepping all these plates that we later see? Who's making all the clothes? Like,
Well, the clothes
who
you-
knows the birthing mysteries? That's a job.
The clothes
Like-
you can explain away, but
But the food.
there are some holes to be poked in there because there's some stuff that they don't know because they live a short while, they don't have the education. But like you say, like things like birthing mysteries, like somebody needs to explain this at some point, even
I
if it's
do-
only in 100 days.
I do feel like maybe there's this whole just like the servant class who's working around this project, and then sometimes they leave food and they're just gone for like 5 days and they come back and everything's ruined at the end of the episode. It's like, what the?
Yeah, we're probably overthinking it.
Yeah,
but,
I know, but
it's
that's
not- it's
part
not-
of the. I
yeah.
like overthinking things.
No, but it is a valid question. I think they should have maybe thought a little bit harder about this. And if you're going for it's Guaul technology, just write it in there.
Or just say, you
Like,
know,
we
we
get
get
food from
99
the
days
gods.
and one day we have to work, and that's enough. We just take turns. I don't know. Anyway,
Yeah.
moving on.
We got back to Jack post coitus, and
can't believe you said that.
well, it's true, isn't it?
Nobody says that. I read it sometimes in text, but I've never actually heard someone say it that serious. Poison. Sorry.
We cut to Jack post coitus because that's where we are in the story.
Oh, really?
We also learn that the woman is called Kintia, and while they're having their post-coitus bliss, they some sort of alarm goes off, and all the locals fall asleep, and it is apparently nightfall or sundown. The rest of the team comes rushing in because they're a bit confused why everyone just passed out all at once, and they seem to be asleep, and they have not been affected since they did not partake in anything. At which point somebody says, like, Jack, didn't you eat food? And he starts feeling very drugged and collapses on the floor, falling asleep.
And then it turns out that they wait until everybody wakes up.
Yeah,
Instead of, if that was my team, I would have taken him home right away. Which is kind of, I know
Well,
the plot requires them to stay, but
and maybe if you want to find out what's happening, like, there's nothing obviously wrong at this point. Like, he's asleep for some reason. They all are. So if you want to find out what happens to them, it kind of makes sense you wait until morning and ask them.
yes, but in the meantime, aren't you gonna take Jack home? I don't know.
Well, you don't know what the effect will be if you take him home. So I kind of get it.
Okay.
So
Anyway,
yeah, we cut to the next morning, and Jack walks out of the house, and he's feeling hungover. And for the people, this is apparently normal. They fall asleep at sundown and wake up the next morning and just continue partying. Daniel then goes to the temple, which is apparently the temple of Pelops, the giver of days. And the people there are the chosen, beloved by Pelops, and he made a garden for them here. He brought them from somewhere else among the stars.
don't join cults, kids.
Yeah.
That's how you.
Well, I'm pretty sure they didn't have a choice in the matter. And Daniel wants to know if there are any more writings. The other man, the local man, doesn't really understand what writing is. So that's one of the points. I was like, they don't have any education. They just party 100 days. So Daniel points to some sort of carvings on the bottom of the statue. And Tilk informs him it's an ancient dialect of the Guauld.
And then Daniel says, "You never told me that." And Teal goes, "You never Big Four inquired." And I just like, he has a solid point, Daniel. And he's cool, and he sounds cool while he says it.
Then Tilk just starts touching the symbols in sequence, and
which-
it opens up and he finds a tablet. And if he moves a crystal over it, it reveals text. It is some sort of log.
And it's a pretty cool effect for.
Yeah, it works.
It works.
It's I think it's pretty simple,
Yeah.
but it works perfectly for what it needs to do. It also has that kind of, it's technology but looks magical,
Yeah.
which is what the goal go
yeah,
for.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it makes perfect sense. At this point, we cut to the beach where Carter has found a nice seashell and she wants to give it to Danielle. And the mother points to her toddler and goes like, yeah, you can just give it to him. And she's like, no, that's a toddler. That's not the baby. I'm
Yeah.
looking for the baby. And she says, no, this is Danielle. And yes, he has the birthmark, but he is older. So they are all confused. And Carter like points to some of the other kids and asks for ages. And it turns out all the people there, their ages are in days. They don't even know what a year is.
Yes. And then Jack goes, how old is Cynthia? And he's like, 31 days. And he goes, oh.
Well, we find out that they have some accelerated growing. So you can at least think she's about 31 or the equivalent
Yeah,
of
true,
in
true.
in
But I do
development.
think Jack is going to ask some more questions next time somebody tries to kiss him. That's all I'm saying.
Daniel is still in the temple and he thinks that the people on the planet are some sort of lab rats to see how the humans will evolve if they shorten the lifespan. And Teal'c and Daniel are trying to find out how Pelops did it.
I love how Teal'c, he's very serious and he's holding these little notes that he made. And I just love it. He's helping and he's being serious, but he's also holding this kid's drawing almost of symbols. I just love him.
Yeah, if there is no action involved, he doesn't really have anything to do. But they solved it really good by having
Yeah.
him help translate. So Daniel thinks it may have been a virus because only Jack has been in direct contact with the people. They talk to Jack in the village, trying to convince him of what is happening. And at that point, it's sundown again, and he just collapses. He just manages to tell them to get back to Earth and to find out how to fix it. And we cut to Carter in the lab where she's being helped by Dr. Fraser in testing blood samples.
And they use a floppy disk.
Yeah. Well, it is still the 90s.
I
so-
know. I used to play games on those.
Yeah. Carmen Sandiego.
Carmen Sandiego, no, like Dark Castle and the Winter Olympics and
Formula One.
Carmen Sandiego, wasn't that on a CD yet?
I had a version on a floppy disk, a series of floppy disks.
Really?
Because
Yeah,
you had
yeah.
to follow her, and then sometimes it would say, well, you have to put in
Yeah.
disk 3.
Because they were very limited in what they could have. I love floppy disks.
They found something in the blood, some sort of organism, and Jack's blood samples has more of it than the Argosians, because the planet is Argos.
I do kind of take offense that these people clearly say our name is the Chosen, and then they still go and say, nah, you're on
Argosians, yeah.
Argosians. Like that's not what they said, but okay, cool.
On Argos, the gates activates and Daniel runs to tell Jack, who enters the room, and he has clearly aged.
Which is second time for him in prosthetics this season.
Yeah, it's not that pronounced yet, but you can clearly see that he has some age lines and his hair is graying. And Carter comes through and she's carrying a really big box. She's of course surprised at his state. And Jack wants to know what they found. Carter says it isn't a virus, but she'll need time. Daniel mentions they don't have it. Then Carter tells them that the organism is rapidly multiplying as if to compensate for the age already lived. So Jack will age faster. So that's what I meant when I said it's not entirely the same. Like they have the 100 days that they develop, and because Jack was already 40, as is stated in this episode, he is 40.
I was so
he's
surprised.
actually younger than we are.
He said, I'm 40. At a certain point in time, he says, I'm 40. And I'm sitting there like, but you, I'm older than you right now. It just, like we have a warped sense of how old people are, because I swear people used to look older. Or maybe it's just that I don't feel like an adult yet, and I don't think I ever will.
I think that's just it.
Maybe that's just it.
That's
I
just
don't
it.
know.
As a kid, they looked like adults, so we thought they were old and
Well,
were
yeah,
adults.
but Carter also looks like an adult, but I don't know. He doesn't look 40 to me.
Yeah,
But he still looks good. I'm
Laura
not saying
Dern in Jurassic Park is in her 20s.
now you're just talking nonsense. Now you're just lying. Nah, that's not a thing.
Anyway,
I love the scene where Jack sends them all back to Earth.
yeah, that's
It's the right tone of emotion that he hits there.
He also says he doesn't want them to bring anything back through the gate
Yeah.
for a second time. Teal'c offers to stay, but Jack says, no, you have to go and you have to help Daniel translate. So he stays alone. Back on Earth, Carter is working on the blood samples and she notices the organisms don't multiply, they replicate. So this might be nanotechnology. And Carter has done some research on it, apparently.
Yeah, I just wondered, like, I know this is the 90s. I forgot when the Borg has been a thing by now, right?
Yes, because Next Generation was 80s.
Yeah, and they already have the Borg.
Yeah.
Because the Borg also use nanotechnology and they also age people.
True.
Because when they, like, well, it is what it is. They steal people. And when they steal babies and kids, they age them up. They don't wait. Mm-hmm. They just chuck them in this converter thingy and then...
And make him big.
Yeah, basically, yes.
Yeah, but nanotechnology was something very hot in the 90s in sci-fi.
Yes, you can do a lot with nanotechnology.
You basically just anything you wanted to do.
Yeah, I remember a storyline where they turn on in these little bugs and they take over a base. Was it... Where was that in Stargate?
Was it?
Was it Stargate? These little spider-like thingies? I may be misremembering it. I'm
not sure.
Yeah. Anyway.
Back on Argos, Jack is sitting in the gate room and talking to the statue of Pelops.
And can I just say they put him? He has a chair.
Yeah.
And there's cushions all around it, and I'm like, who did this?
I think the people are really concerned. They want to make him very comfortable. They can see he's aging, that there's something different
But
about
what
him.
is it like? So someone can sit there, or is it like this old man is gonna fall? So the floor? Which one is
Both.
it? But it really works because he looks so dejected.
Yeah.
Like, and then
Cynthia is there,
yeah.
And she wants to know if he will leave too, but he tells her that he is staying. And she offers to learn his customs, but he refuses.
Yeah, and apparently they're married because it was a marriage cake.
Yeah.
And I love that because this was really big. It still kind of is big in the science fiction genre. Like, eventually, you're gonna accidentally get married.
Well, it's basically what happened to Daniel also.
Yeah, well...
He didn't realize either that he was
which
married.
means Daniel got married by being gifted a wife. Jack got married by being gifted a cake and eating it. And then Carter got sold as a wife, which means that we're only in the first season and all of them already got hitched,
I don't think Teal'c ever gets sold or anything.
No, but he's already married. We just don't know it yet.
Yes.
So
We
they
will find that out
basically,
in a few
technically
episodes.
all have
yeah, and you would think that Jack should have known better after what Daniel did on Abydos, but...
I mean, he was probably hungry. If a pretty girl gave me cake, I would probably eat it too. And that's saying a lot because I'm a celiac. I don't care, give it.
I wrote down like the penny drops for Jack, and it is true. And you can see in his eyes like, oh God, I did it.
Oh,
that's what it was.
Yes, that's what that was.
And he tries to convince her that their life on the planet is a lie, and that there are people that are living to 100 years, not days, and that Pelops shortened their lives, not blessed them. And she runs off, upset.
And I wrote down, oi, be nice to your wife. But on the other hand, I can totally see where he's coming from. He's upset. And she's trying to comfort him, but like, her beliefs, don't mesh with the truth, and it clashes. And I do love how they play it because Cynthia isn't stupid. And she really wants to, she genuinely thinks that what she feels for Jack is what, for them is normal. And she really keeps caring for him and keeps checking in on him. And I really like her.
I think they did really well with the direction of not making the people like childlike in their intelligence. No, they are fully grown adults. They're just sheltered, so they don't know certain things and they believe certain things because that's all they've known. So it's really well done. Like you said, she's not stupid. It's just on her planet. That is the truth, and that's how they play it. So that's really well done. Fraser and Carter are still testing, and there seems to be some kind of element missing because they can't really replicate or find out what triggers the aging. And at that point, suddenly the gloves that Carter is using inside the containment unit disintegrate as the virus tries to spread, and she just about manages to close the whole thing up. On Argos, Jack has aged a lot, and he's trying to compose a letter to Sarah, but he can't find the words. I thought that was a really nice detail.
Yeah, that was.
Like,
Yeah.
that like he thinks this is one of the last things he will do, so he's trying to put something down for Sarah, which is really cool.
And I also love how Cynthia figures out that he has an ex-wife, and at no point at all does she get mopey or annoyed or whiny
No, on the
about,
contrary.
oh, we're supposed to be married and you're aging now and this wasn't what I had planned. Or no, she legitimately is like, oh, and I'm keeping you away from all that. She feels bad for him.
And not only that,
yeah.
I think she realizes that because the whole situation, he will never see Sarah again.
Yeah.
She basically says this.
Yeah, she says it, and she feels bad for him. And yeah, she was well written for being just a one-off character. At this point though, I do wonder, like, have they tried walking out of the zone yet? Because that would be, I get him moping around, I get him writing the letter, but he has, well, not a lot of time, but he has time. I would have tried something.
I think at this point he's just hoping that they come back, because you have to realize it's only been a couple of days.
True.
He aged a lot, but that's the situation. That's not the time he's been there. It looks like he's been there a while, but it's only been 2-3 days because he's aging more rapidly than the others. So, but the point you're making is coming up in the next scene, because the young man, Alakos, comes in and he wants to know if Jack really lived so many days, and he starts talking to the statue. Wants to know why Pelops has done this to them, and Jack wants to know what he would do if he had more time. So Alakos tells him he would explore the planet and see what is outside of their city, but Pelops forbade them to do this. So Jack urges him to try and explore. The next day, Cynthia arrives to convince Jack to return to the village. His hair has grown really long at this point, so he's very, very old.
And I can understand why they gave him the wig, because it's easier to show that somebody is aging when their hair is like brittle and white, but he didn't have this much hair to begin with. So...
Yeah, but it's also growing, I think.
Yeah.
But again, you can explain a lot away by the fact that he's a special case.
True.
Like his hair grows a lot faster than
the
the other
nanites
people.
don't know what to
and
do
stuff
with him.
that.
It's like,
Yeah.
let's just make hair.
They're just overcompensating. I do think for the time and the budget, the makeup's pretty good. It's pretty good. It's on point. It's funny though if you look at him now, because he's about the age now that they're portraying him back then. He looks a lot better now than he did in the series.
To be fair, I mean, yeah.
But they're also trying to do this thing like he's...
they have to exaggerate a little bit.
Yeah. And he's getting worse.
Yeah.
She says that he's wasting his life sitting there, and he thinks reflecting on his past life is no waste.
I love that. Because at first I was like, yeah, she has a point. And then he goes, I'm reflecting. I'm like, ooh, he has a point too.
Yeah, and for him, I don't think he really senses the difference in time, because he has lived 40 years and it's only been 4 days. So he doesn't really understand that, like, only 100 days is hard to capture for him.
Yeah, for her, he's been sitting there forever almost.
And for her it's a lot longer, because she realizes 100 days is her lifespan. So works really well, because Cynthia says, like, we have always lived like this. At this point, Jack does mention his ex, and she asks if he still loves her, and she realizes at this point that she is actually keeping him away from her, and she kisses him.
Which is a very sweet moment.
Yeah, I think the way their relationship develops is actually pretty good, because there is more like a friendship and a respect between them than like she understands that he comes from a different planet with different customs, and she adjusts to it. She doesn't pressure him in any way. She just tries to take care of him.
And she always keeps seeing the person behind the aging body too. She never treats him any different.
No, and she never mentions anything about the fact that he's getting really old, which should be a given because she's never seen this before, but she doesn't. So that's actually, it's a good relationship.
Yeah.
They have good chemistry also.
Yeah. And then they take a walk and they walk out of the zone.
That's not here. That's
What?
later.
Did I just stop taking notes then for a bit?
No, but we cut back to Earth for a moment where Hammond
yeah.
wants to destroy the samples and stop all the testing because it is too dangerous.
Which he has a point. Again, if Hammond was in charge of COVID,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, Carter and Fraser both try to convince him they can work secure, and Daniel gets angry and yells they cannot leave Jack there, but Hammond refuses.
yeah.
He does have a point.
He does have a
because at
point.
this point they don't know what it is, what
it's-
actually triggers it.
Once it eats through gloves, you know, that's...
Once you can see that it's dangerous, you have to
Yeah.
act. So, good call. Back on Argos, Jack is watching a video message from SG-1 informing him that they are still working on it, but with computer models, because they are not allowed to travel to him, and the video is some sort of goodbye. People of Argos walk in and place offerings at the statue of Pelops. And Jack gets angry, starts yelling at them that Pelops is not a god and that they are in fact his slaves. And this appears to convince them that their life might really be...
Yeah, and it's not like they
broken.
were just constantly not believing him. There you can really see progression in their belief, because they're only asking Pelops because at that point his friends can't help him. And they're like, okay, well, maybe as a last-ditch effort, let's ask our god.
Yeah, but he convinces them that Pelops might not be a god and that they are slaves. So they rebel and they tear down the statue because they do not want to be the chosen anymore, and it tumbles and breaks. And they act a little scared, waiting for some kind of reaction from the god, but it doesn't occur, so they rejoice. And we cut to the beach where Jack and Cynthia are walking along the shore, and she's scared that they are walking too far, but he tells her it will be okay. And they are. We cut to them playing. What's it called in English?
Tic-tac-toe.
On the beach, Jack's losing, even though
Which,
he taught
how
her the
can
game.
you even lose? Just start in the middle.
I know.
It-
It's
no,
a joke.
it's
It's a
a
joke.
joke,
He
and-
says, I should have taught you a game I can win.
Yeah, they're having fun. And it's dark.
Yeah, because they have a campfire going, and suddenly Jack realizes that it is night, but they are not unconscious yet. So they walk back to the village, where everybody is still sleeping, although it is daytime at this point. He asks Cynthia, like, the rule for not leaving, is that a big rule? And she's like, it's the first rule.
That's a pretty big clue.
So Jack theorizes that by walking far enough away, that might be the solution, but there's probably one other variable he hasn't found yet. So he goes back to the statue, and inside of it there is a device with blinking lights, which begs the question, why didn't you see that when you broke it? But okay. And he pulls it out, and it tells Cynthia he has a phone call to make. So the gate activates, and SG-1 comes back through in full hazmat gear.
Yes, and I love how, even though they're in full hazmat gear, I love how Teal'c has his staff, so you can immediately see, like, oh, it's them.
Well, he's also taller than
Yeah,
all of the
true,
others.
true,
but,
true, true.
And Jack is very happy to see them, except for this small prostate problem he won't go into. It's not too bad, apparently. Daniel and Teal'c says they have found two frequencies in the writing, one for the sleeping and one for the waking. So Jack probably damaged the device when he broke the statue, so the people didn't wake up again. But Carter has something to send out that specific signal on that frequency, and the village wakes up.
I love how Jack goes like, can you use this to send out the signal? And Carter says, no, we have to use our own stuff. And she turns on the button, and the stuff that they use has already been set up, and that took some time. So did Jack simply not see them do that? Like, we have to use our stuff. I've just been putting it up. Have you not been paying attention?
Probably.
I don't know. But yeah, and then everybody wakes up. Hooray!
And Daniel tells them that because of all the things they broke, that the nanites probably deactivate and they should age normally from now on. And Carter also thinks that the nanites should probably return Jack to normal in about 2 weeks. And Cynthia immediately understands that this means Jack will now be leaving. So Carter, being observant as she is, nudges the rest along to leave them so they can have their goodbyes. And they have a really nice, heartfelt goodbye.
Yeah.
And in the end, he gently kisses her on the cheek, and the episode ends.
It ends on a freeze frame. Why? Because it only freezes for like 2 seconds. I think it's just a style choice.
It also feels like, I get that this is like a good moment to end, but I don't know. It feels a bit like, and here we cut it off.
Yeah, but it was more about...
But I don't know what you would tell beyond this point, so I kind of get it. But yeah. And maybe they just needed 5 more frames to fill out their runtime, because at that point you had to deliver episodes at specific lengths, because they had to cut in the commercials, and that package would be 1 hour of television. So the episodes would end up being, without the commercials, about 4 to 4 minutes and an exact amount of seconds. So it could just be that they had to just add a few frames.
Yeah. So before streaming services, they did indeed write their episodes to follow this format too, because you knew exactly where your breaks were going to be. Mm-hmm. So, and then you had this little fade out.
Well, I do miss it sometimes, because it's a skill. Writing episodes like that is a skill.
It's basically chapter-like.
Yeah, and you have to have your little story arcs, and you have to have your little cliffhangers, but it does keep the pace going. Mm-hmm. Okay, there is some points where you repeat information, because after the break you have to have this little tiny recap of what just happened, but the episodes were really clear back then. Nowadays you have like, an episode is an hour and 20 minutes, and if you go to the bathroom for 2 minutes, you might have missed something, and it's never coming back.
Yeah, but they do assume that you can just pause it and walk away.
Yeah, that is true.
But I kind of do miss those moments when you thought you had more time, and they're screaming, "It's back on!" and you just rush, you just run, you make a mad dash, you leave your snacks in the kitchen, you dive back onto the couch, like, okay.
Yeah, I do. I miss.
Like, remember when sports just happened to have more screen time, and then they would budge your episodes to the side, and if you were very unlucky, it just fell out of the roster and you were just confused. I don't miss that part.
No, I used to follow a science fiction show, and at one point, for some reason, we needed to go somewhere, and they didn't want to wait for me to finish the episode, so I only saw half of the episode, and the week after that, I just had no idea what was going on, and there was no recap. I'm pretty sure I missed the last episode of that series, and I still don't know how it turned out.
I missed the last episode of Beast Wars Transformers.
You told me, yeah.
Because there was a huge, big football match that they just had to send out, and it took the screen time. And I, as a kid, just assumed that meant they would like move it to next week. No, because then the next thing was starting, and I just missed. And this was before you could just look up that episode online and see it. This was before YouTube. I mean, it took me forever to figure out how it ended. Yeah, I was really mad.
Our daughter has no idea how good she has it.
Yeah, she just pauses stuff and walks off and goes like, "Oh, this is nice. I'll just watch this and I'll get back to it." Like, do you have any idea how lucky you are?
Yeah, she
doesn't even know what taping.
She'll just stop a show and be like, "I'll pick it up when I feel like it."
But,
and we at that age we were like, "No, we have to watch this now because it's never coming back."
To be fair, she also has had moments where things just poof off of things, and that's not fair either, because we, as you can see, we buy a lot of stuff physical discs. But nowadays, a lot of streamings just don't do that anymore because it's not profitable. So there are series that
No, it is profitable.
Yeah, but
it
they
is profitable. There's a reason Disney is bringing out all their big budget
yeah,
shows
but even
on discs.
yeah, but even they keep the movies in the vaults and only rotate them for some reason. But there's series that I want to have on DVD, but they just don't release them, and
I know.
just give me the DVD, honestly.
But it's like when Netflix put out Glass Onion. They did a limited run in theaters,
we have that
only
one.
in America, because we couldn't go to the cinemas here to watch it. We had to wait for the Netflix
we
premiere.
don't have it. We have Knives
No,
Out though.
we have Knives Out, but we don't. So that was my point. So they made a lot of money on that theatrical run, and they just didn't make it longer. They just said no, 2 weeks, that's it, and then we're putting it on streaming. Even though that all of the screenings were sold out, so they were making money on it. And they're like, no, it's not our business model.
I do not understand the streaming business model, and I do believe that everybody working in the streaming business model does not understand the streaming business model. I think they're...
A colleague of mine had a meeting apparently with...
We're way off tangent.
I know. But I have a colleague, and he went on a meeting with somebody on the Belgian division of Netflix. And he told me that they have a very clear idea of what they're doing. They have like rules and things, and like because they went there with a pitch or a script. I don't remember if it was a complete script or a pitch. And they were like, we're not gonna do it because this, and the algorithm this, and like it doesn't fit here. It's a very good idea, but we're not gonna do it because this. And so they have set this in rules, in writing. It's studied to a T. I think they know very well what they're doing. Even though sometimes you would be like, yeah, but you could make more money the other way. I think it's enough for them.
I just want physical media that I can be like, hey, remember SG1? That was a fun show. Let's rewatch it. And you don't have to figure out what streaming is it on. Is it still on streaming? Not in this country.
No,
because...
it is.
Okay. Well,
the whole of Stargate is available on Prime because MGM got bought out by Amazon.
for now.
Yeah, for now.
I just don't like the idea of, like, nobody can come into our house. Well, technically they can, but nobody's going to come into our house and be like, yoink, now you can't watch this anymore.
True. For a while, they did have a specific streaming service that only did Stargate. I think it was
Really?
Gate World or something. They thought that was going to be very profitable because they had a lot of fans. But I don't think only Stargate is not enough. That's when they produced the prequel miniseries, the online web series. I don't think you watched that one.
That doesn't ring a bell at all.
I saw it. I paid for it on YouTube because I think that's about the only place you can watch it, and it's not that good. It is clearly a web series on a low budget.
Which doesn't have to be a bad thing. There's a lot of web series on a low budget that are really good. The Guilds is so good.
Yeah, but they write for their budget. And this was, we're going to make a period piece, Stargate
Period piece.
action thing
What?
in 6 or 7 or 8 episodes, and they clearly did not have the budget.
So
for
we
that.
have been way off tangent here.
Yeah.
What did you think of the episode?
It's a good episode. It's a bit middle of the road, a Planet of the Week, but it's a good idea. And Richard Dean Anderson is, as always, really, really good in it. The makeup holds, but it's actually his performance for me that sells it.
Yeah. And I don't mind a Planet of the Week episode with a clear theme and a clear,
No, it's
story.
It works.
Yeah.
It's solid. I don't really have any remarks on it. It works.
And it totally fits in what the Goa'uld would do, how they see, their livestock. But it's also an original thing.
Yeah, it again does a lot of world building with new Goa'uld. We don't really see that guy again, but it opens it up.
Yeah, but like the Goa'uld are bit. That's a difficult word to say. Like
Goa'uld.
too many times after it. There are big baddies, but they don't feel the need to shove them in our faces every single episode.
No,
Which, if you go later on in Stargate Atlantis, we see the Wraith
a lot.
Every single episode.
Almost, yeah.
Almost every single
There are some
episode.
other enemies in there, but the Wraith are
Which
the
I
main
like the Wraith.
guys.
They're awesome. I'm not saying they aren't, but this is a different sort of. You get a sense of how vast this galaxy is. Like if they run into each other, it's very accidental at this point.
And it's also a good thing to have a threat that comes from the gold without having to show them. So it
Yeah.
shows you they are around. They've had a lot of influence, but they don't need to be on screen to be effective.
Yeah.
So yeah, I liked this one.
What's the next one gonna be called?
The
Was
next
it Thor's hammer?
I think so. I think
Okay.
it's Thor's hammer.
Alright.
Quick check. Yes,
Is it about Thor?
I guess
his
so.
hammer.
And his hammer, Mjolnir. Although I'm not sure. Well, we'll see. We'll find out if they call the hammer Mjolnir for real. Yeah, looking forward to that
It's
one.
gonna be really weird not seeing Chris Hemsworth in that one. I might have gotten slightly reprogrammed.
I am curious if we're gonna meet the Asgard here or if this is later.
Right, because the Asgard are yeah.
They are the ones who pretend to be the Norse gods, one of the first races. And I am curious to find out if we see one of them here or if that is later in the series. But this is the start of that anyway.
We're not even halfway through the first season.
No, about a third, well, over a third. 21 episodes, we're on 8, so we passed the 1/3 mark.
That is not a thing. Oh gosh.
It is now.
All
So,
right.
yeah, let's wrap this up. Where can people find you on the internet?
On the internet. Well, oh gosh, I just got flashbacks from AOL and all those things that don't exist anymore. I am on TikTok and Skynet as Evie Belknap.
Skynet.
Oh my god, I'm not on Skynet. Oh god.
You're the one!
I've been
You've been looking to the at
I've
the
been
Terminator
looking, yeah,
DVDs.
it's right behind you. I think there's some subliminal messaging going on. You can find me on Blue Sky and on TikTok and on Instagram as Evie Belknap.
And you can find me as Arne Keustermans on Instagram and at Iredonian on Blue Sky and YouTube. And we'll see you next week. Bye.